I forgot to say good morning, Rebecca. Thanks for helping. I see our Zoom room is starting to fill up for our conversation this morning on the Penn State Alumni Association's coffee hour with Lauren Packer Webster. I'm looking forward to our conversation with her as the athletic director at Franklin and Marshall. As always, if you're joining the Zoom, go ahead and tell us who you are and where you're from. Drop that in the chat. We will be getting started in just a minute or two. We want to let the room fill up with our guests, and we want to also welcome those of you who are watching on Facebook Live. Welcome to the Penn State Alumni Association's coffee hour. We will be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Good morning, Joe Shalaba and Pete Sheridan, two regulars here on Coffee Hour. I see Paul McConaughey also listed in the participant list. I see my friend George Henning. I'm sure Sue's not too far away there. Good to see their names as well represented. Looking forward to celebrating with George and Sue coming up here in November. The Penn State Alumni Association has been recognized as the 2020 Renaissance Fund honoree. For more information about that, you can find that on our website at alumni.psu.edu. But we are so excited and honored to be the 2020 Renaissance Fund honoree this year. And I know George and Sue were a big part of the history of that fund. And so we're looking forward to celebrating here, albeit virtually, in just a couple weeks. Where else would you rather be than a Zoom full of Penn Staters? I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, and welcome to the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. Each week, right here on Coffee Hour, you can expect to hear the voices of Penn Staters talking about what they're passionate about, and you can expect to feel the pride and the power of the Penn State network. Live closed captions are available for this event. You can access them by clicking the closed caption button at the bottom of your Zoom video window and then clicking show subtitle. You can also customize your caption view experience by clicking the streamed text link posted in the chat. And just as a reminder, we are recording this session and we'll be sharing it with other Penn Staters for inspiration for years to come. Today, we are going to talk to the athletic director at Franklin and Marshall, Lauren Packer Webster. In her first year at Franklin and Marshall, Lauren is responsible for the management and development of 27 intercollegiate programs, club sports, intramurals, fitness programs, and all athletic facilities. Prior to F&M, Lauren was the Associate Director of Athletics at Mercyhurst University, where she directed all aspects of the 22 NCAA Division II sports and administration of the Division I men's and women's hockey programs there. The Lakers, under her leadership, saw unparalleled success and with 7 straight top 50 finishes in the Learfield Directors Cup, including back-to-back years in the top 20 and their highest rankings in school history. Penn Staters, I'm excited to welcome Franklin and Marshall's athletic director, Lauren Packer Webster, to Coffee Hour. Lauren, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. And good morning to all of my fellow Penn State alums out there. This is a tremendous shot of energy that's been needed. So I'm really looking forward to feeding off of all of the blue and white pride this morning.
Well, I'll give you a big go dips right at the beginning of this. So let's start at the beginning, though. How did you become a Penn Stater?
So I grew up approximately 20 miles outside of State College. I looked around at a few different colleges, primarily focused on small private institutions, but in the end, I really could not break away from Happy Valley and from Penn State. And what started as a dream of going to one of the Commonwealth campuses and then transferring to University Park, I ended up staying at Penn State Erie, the Barron College, for all 4 years. So for me, I had the best of both worlds. I was able to experience University Park on the weekends and stick to my small class sizes and stay focused at the Commonwealth campus.
And that led to a really strong connection to the Erie area throughout a good part of your career. We'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But while you were at Penn State Barron, what were you involved in?
So started off softball player my entire life, saw a sign on the brand new Junker Center. It said, starting a water polo team, would you like to try out? And I knew nothing about water polo. All I knew is that I had made it to the fish portion of the YMCA swimming program, and I thought that qualified me. And so I ended up trying out for the team. I made the team, was the starting goalie, had no idea what I got myself into. And that was when water polo did not have any specific divisions. So some of my first games as a Division III athlete were against Michigan, Indiana, Princeton, Bucknell. Just imagine the fear in my heart as I'm in goal for one of the games and I see the University of Michigan starting 7 walk out, and they all have their 2000 USA water polo national team, like Sydney Olympic tattoos. So
that's amazing. That's a rough sport. People think of because it happens in a pool that it's so elegant, and I'm really fighting the urge to make a horse joke here, and so I'm not going to. I guess I maybe just did a little bit, but it is a rough physical sport, water polo. What an entry into college athletics, a new sport, and one that is it's one thing to be goalie of a hockey team and face a 100-mile-an-hour puck, right? It's another thing to do all of that and risk drowning, right?
correct. So
Yeah.
So from there, I was involved in athletics, became really involved with the humanities and social sciences division. I was able to be a teaching assistant for a course that I absolutely loved. And then I transitioned to the student newspaper. And by my senior year, I was editor-in-chief of the newspaper. So I found many ways to be engaged throughout my 4 years at Barron.
So you have 2 degrees in communications, one obviously from Penn State and then a master's degree from Edinburgh. Where did the focus on athletic administration come from? Was that always the plan, or was that something that you were introduced to along the way?
It was never part of the plan. So the plan was to be a journalist. And I actually was in talks with accepting a position after grad school to be a newspaper reporter in Ohio. And I was going to cover crime and news. And about the time I was making the decision to accept the position, the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference called and said, "We know you just graduated from Edinburgh. We heard you did great things. Would you be interested in an internship position?" So here I am. I'm almost ready to sign for my first full-time job. I see the first full-time paycheck. And then there's the other opportunity of an internship in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania for, I think it was $450 every 2 weeks. And I chose to go with the internship. I moved back in with my parents. At the time, my sister was the high school senior. So imagine being on your own for
Right.
so long. You move back in with your parents. You're now an intern. And it was the best choice that I could have ever made. I was exposed to extraordinary athletic directors such as Bruce Baumgartner from Edinburgh,
Yeah.
Sharon Taylor from Lock Haven, and just sitting in that room at the athletic directors meetings and listening to the scope of the issues and the problems. And at that point, we were the only 14 state institutions.
Right.
And during my time there, we actually transitioned Mercyhurst and Gannon as the first two private institutions into the state system conference. So I had that added component. And it was something that I fell in love with. And I thought, this is where I'm meant to be. So I can safely say that I have not looked back and wondered, what would my life be like if I was still in Ohio as a newspaper reporter?
You should say Olympian Bruce Baumgartner, right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah, an American Olympic hero at that. I'm a fellow Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference graduate. I'm a class of '96 Bloomsburg. I was on the football team there and did some spirit squad work after my time on the football field. But Mary Gardner was our athletic director at the time, and she was just fantastic, just a great advocate for the student athletes there while I was at Bloomsburg.
Yeah, and I think that I look back and it was so important to have Sharon Taylor, who essentially was a champion for Title IX and gender equity, and Mary Gardner. She didn't shy away from a hard conversation about gender equity, about sports. I mean, she knew her material inside and out, and she was a staunch advocate for student athletes. So to be able to have access as a young professional to those ladies in the room and their mentorship at such a young age, that was really what propelled me into thinking, this is a possibility. This is a field that I can see myself in long term.
So was their example that maybe planted a seed early on?
When I look back, yes. I also can credit Sandy Barber for helping plant a seed. I was able to sit with her at a game in Pagula, and we talked about my recent promotion. And, I said, I'm starting to get comfortable. And she said, that's where you're going wrong. Don't ever get comfortable. And I think I kind of let that sit for a little bit. And that was the tipping point. That's when I thought, it's time to lead my own department. It's time to transform student athletes' lives through my own vision. And so with the Sharon Taylors and the Mary Gardners and the young professional mentorship I received from them in combination with just some unsolicited advice from Sandy, I think you can say that's what propelled me, and that's why I'm here today.
So you are where you are today, but before we dive into your career in higher education athletics, talk a little bit about the why that drives your passion for this work.
Yeah. My underlying passion, service. I truly believe in servant leadership. It is what drives me every day. It's not about me, it's about we. How can we make a difference? How can we impact lives? I'm in the perfect spot in higher education. This is where I'm meant to be. Higher education has transformed my life, and I think that is something that I have a duty now to repay, and I'm able to do it through sport. So being able to inspire students for a life of meaningful service and purpose to their community by using sports, it's really, that's what drives me every day. And the wins and the losses and the amazing games and great memories, those are kind of 1A, but number one is definitely transforming lives for meaningful purpose and service using sports.
This is the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. I'm Paul Clifford. I'm joined by the athletic director at Franklin and Marshall. She's actually the director of athletics and recreation, Lauren Packer Webster. Lauren, so you touched a little bit on your career, started the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference and the conference offices there in Lock Haven. And then you moved on from there to Allegheny College before ultimately Mercyhurst and now Franklin and Marshall. Just briefly kind of walk us through your career progression.
Yeah. So as I thought about my career progression, I honestly think the seed of working in athletics most likely was planted when I was 14 and I was working in the pretzel house at Beaver Stadium. We did that as a fundraiser for our softball team. And we were allowed in the stadium so early, and I got to see all the behind the scenes that happened, from facilities and operations to game day ops to athletic communications. The pretzel house was located right next to the visitor locker room. And so I would see the teams come in, and I had never been exposed to anything like that before. And so that kind of was always in the back of my head. But then, talking about the career, it really was just going from the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference and then moving into Mercyhurst. It all seemed to line up pretty linearly. But taking that experience at 14 and then taking, if you will, the generosity of Penn Staters along the way, specifically Dr. Rohrbeck. I was a Renaissance Fund recipient, and Dr. Rohrbeck took the time to introduce me to the legendary Mary Jo Haverbeck. And after a couple of meetings with her and talking about possibly working in athletics, within 3 or 4 days, I was contacted by the vice president of Division I women's basketball, and Mary Jo had set up for me to work as a media relations assistant for the women's Final Four in Cleveland. So
Wow.
I look back at all of the things that Penn State afforded me, and just, besides the education and the diploma, all of the touch points of the generosity of the people along the way and the experiences. I think I'll forever be grateful for that totality of experience, starting all the way back at 14 years old, making pretzels for Beaver Stadium.
That's amazing. I think we could spend probably the next hour talking about women's basketball. My wife Jenny and I are big women's basketball fans from our days. Well, first my days, I started at Seton Hall as a manager for the women's basketball team there, but worked at UConn for a number of years, and then the University of Oregon, and even here at Penn State, all kind of legendary Division I women's basketball programs. But we have a lot of other questions to get to. So it's not about what I'm interested in today. It's about you and telling your story and help spreading that to other Penn Staters. Your search process was highly unusual. You went through this entire process virtually because of COVID-19. What was that like? How did you mentally prepare for that? How was it different from other experiences?
Sure. So the application deadline was March 18th, and the weeks leading up to March 18th, if you can remember, were just filled with so many unknowns. I had traveled with women's water polo on a trip to Indiana University at the beginning of the month and was very nervous. We were all nervous about traveling. Then the next weekend, I flew to Sioux Falls with the wrestling team. They were in the national championship. And that was about a 24-hour trip, because the day that I landed was also the day that all of the Division I wrestling and winter national championships were canceled.
Right.
So came home quickly, had about 3 or 4 days to kind of digest what had just happened to the sports world and what is happening to the country and the world. And then it came time for that March 18th deadline. So I got my materials together, put it in, and about a week later, got an email back that said, we're going to pause the search. Everyone needs a chance to breathe and to process what is happening. So we paused the search for about 3 weeks. Didn't think anything of it. April came and went, and that included some screenings, some telephone calls, and some Zooms. And then in May, I was named a finalist, and it was really daunting. So it was 2 days back to back of Zooms from 8 in the morning until 12. And each Zoom was with a different constituent group. There was 10 or 12 squares on my screen that I had to figure out what they wanted from me virtually. And it was very it was very unfulfilling as a candidate because I was just sitting in a waiting room, waiting for them to let me in a virtual meeting. And then when my session was over, I simply clicked leave meeting and that was done. You know,
Right.
there was no time for conversation or fellowship walking me from one building to the next on campus, or no time for fellowship during meals, dinners, lunches with the constituent groups. So in that respect, it was very lonely and there was no feedback. You could not tell what the other side of the screen was thinking. And so you just kind of left each day with the, you told yourself, well, I did the best that I could do. I have no idea what's happening on the other end, six and
Right.
a half, 7 hours away on the other side of the state. But um, it continued on. There were several more rounds. And then finally in June, it was announced that I was going to be the next director of athletics and recreation. And to this day, so that was in March and we're now in October, to this day, I still haven't met about a third of my staff in person. So I've still been virtual. So it's presenting all sorts of unique challenges. So how am I creating buy-in? How am I leading? How am I disseminating my vision? How am I building a team and culture virtually? So I'm looking forward to lots of keynote speaker opportunities in the next 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely. Look, you're the expert on it now, right? But one thing that strikes me is that, one thing that we learn as we progress in our career is that the interview process is a two-way street, right? We are being interviewed, right? People want to know if we're the right person for the job that they are searching for. But we're also interviewing them, right? And we also want to feel like we're courted, right? Like we're being recruited. How did F&M give you that feeling such that you were comfortable accepting the role?
Yeah. I think F&M did a phenomenal job. They provided so many touch points during the process that would not have been traditionally available. So the vice president is my direct report, and she is the individual responsible for the hire along with the president. And because we had so many technologies that were in use, they were very conscious of that. And so we would call in advance and we would talk through the format, the technology being used. We would be able to ask questions of each other. And so if that's a traditional 2-day on-campus interview, I don't think that you're getting that one-on-one attention and those touch points with the individuals responsible for making the hire. I'm probably assigned a liaison or a staff member who would take care of all of the logistics. It would be your traditional experience. And so F&M really did a great job managing all of the extra touch points. So they not only could put their best foot forward through the virtual process, but they also made me feel as though I was part of their community and they wanted me to be here through those extra touch points.
Let's shift the conversation a little bit to what you do on a day-to-day basis. Given your experience with predominantly Division II and Division III institutions, and your work at the PSAC Division II conference, what in your opinion is the difference or the differentiator between athletics at Division II and Division III versus Division I?
Sure. So the obvious one, resources. So, but cast resources aside, there are some major philosophical differences in how the divisions operate. So at Division II, they have a lovely expression called life in the balance, and they really believe in it. The Division II institutions buy into it, and so do the student athletes. And so the life in the balance is meant to provide the students with a way to manage being a scholarship student athlete and then an academic. And so that provides a really unique experience. Right now at Franklin and Marshall, we are a very, very rigorous academic institution. And so the principals within our founding conference everything we do, including game schedules, competition, anything that relates to the conference, it's all about limiting missed class time. So we play a lot on the weekends, at night. So the philosophy is very academic centered. And some might say almost to the detriment of athletics, because of the length we go to protect the academic experience. And then on the flip side, at my time at Mercyhurst at Division I with ice hockey, sometimes we're sending men's and women's ice hockey on a bus on Wednesday night, and they're missing all day Thursday and all day Friday for a weekend full of games. So I've seen the full spectrum of the NCAA experience from a student athlete perspective and from an administrator perspective. And so I think unless you are in the environment and you're working with it day to day, you may not be able to experience the different philosophies and the nuances that each division brings to the student athlete.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there that might be lost if we don't call it out too. That regardless of what division that you're in, different conferences, different schools take different approaches to intercollegiate athletics, right? I'm sure that there are some Division III conferences that if you close your eyes and just change the names, they sound and they act like Division I programs, because their emphasis is not like F&M's emphasis, where we're going to play on the weekends and we're going to make sure that we're limiting missed class time. And so, but I think of like the Patriot League, right? Patriot League is 1AA, or what we used to call 1AA, but no scholarships, right? Ivy League, no scholarships, and yet those student athletes are competing at the highest level on the basketball court. And yet when they go up against a Kentucky or an Alabama or a Penn State, the approach is a little different because of the conferences that they came from.
Yeah, the conference affiliation is huge no matter what division you're in, because it really does drive the priorities for your institution. You know, if you find yourself in a conference that is misaligned with your institution's values, it can lead to some competitive disadvantages for you. And you have to, as an institution, decide, is this a good fit? And if it's not, at the Division II and Division III levels, you don't have the ability to realign as easily, or as Division I has realigned as easily in the past.
You touched on the men's and women's hockey program at Mercyhurst. I know you also have a Division I wrestling program at F&M now. How do you manage and prioritize the resources between your Division I sports, which play by, in some cases, a different set of rules, and the Division II and Division III philosophies that are driving your programs?
Yeah. So it has to be an institutional commitment. So it's got to be the support from the board of the trustees through the president and through the institution. And at Mercyhurst, we have had great support, and we were able to resource it the best that we could within the context of our institution. So we were not in a great market in Erie in terms of close competitors for the Division I ice hockey programs. So that limits our ability with some revenue generation. But at Division III here, with our Division I program for Franklin and Marshall, we really try to leverage and capitalize the uniqueness of the experience. We are the only Division III institution. So out of the 500 plus Division III institutions, we are the only one to sponsor wrestling at the Division I level. And so for us, we provide resources that are available, maybe aren't available, such as that student athlete experience, the liberal arts experience. And we are a little bit limited in what we can offer from a financial component, especially because we don't offer athletic scholarships for the Division I wrestlers. Okay. So we have to be really creative about how can we make their Division I experience unique within the setting of a multi-divisional campus.
Yeah, I'm sure part of that is, being located in a hotbed for high school wrestling in in Eastern Pennsylvania, right? And being able to wrestle close to family and at the highest level, right? They don't have to go to Oklahoma State to compete against the top wrestlers in the country. So I'm sure that that's part of the competitive advantage or the attractiveness of Franklin and Marshall. There's also the fact that it's wrestling, and there are very few full Division I wrestling scholarships, right? I mean, I think the wrestlers only get 9 scholarships, or is it 8.5 scholarships for wrestling at the Division I level, and so they're dividing those up amongst 15 to 20 other student athletes, and so there are very few, if it's rare, that there is a full scholarship Division I wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, we are really fortunate that we are in the hotbed of wrestling here. And we're also really fortunate that as a small private liberal arts, we've got national brand recognition. So we're a top 50 national liberal arts program. That helps our head coach be able to recruit nationally. And we're not limited to a regional reach, whereas some of our other Division III institutions might focus more on that regional recruitment.
The topic of paying athletes has been hotly debated over the past couple of years. How do you think this would impact ICA and the institutions that you have served, right? You would have some student athletes on your campus that might be eligible for those payments, and then some that aren't. What do you think the impact would be just on athletics in general, and then maybe on the institutions that you've served?
Yeah. It's an extremely complicated topic. The variables that go into the final decisions of paying athletes, and just each school, each institution, so different, the priorities so different, resources available, and especially what we're seeing now in response to the pandemic and the limited resources that are available. I think first, it's an amazing opportunity for us to hit the reset button and redesign what collegiate athletics can and maybe should look like. So there's great opportunity there. But from just a strict financial perspective, it'd be hard. It would be really hard for institutions that are small and that have a broad-based sports sponsorship as part of their educational mission. I think it would be very hard for them to continue to provide those academic and athletic opportunities on the large scale that they do. So my concern overall is, how do we continue to offer these broad-based programmings if we have that financial component that we now need to pick up? That's kind of what keeps me up at night, in addition to a whole laundry list of other issues that are simultaneously converging on higher ed and athletics. Right. But the participation opportunities for student athletes are really valued, and it does make a difference in their lives. And for some of them, it is the difference between receiving a college degree or not attending college at all. So how do we balance that, and how do we not lose the focus on the educational mission? I'd really love for that to always be the driver of this, rather than economics and the consumerism part of it.
We talked about your search process through COVID-19, but as COVID-19 kind of hit the country and we went to a work from home status, and some practices stopped and competitions stopped, and then we moved into the summer and George Floyd was murdered. We have seen a renewed level of activism amongst our student athletes that I quite honestly don't recall at any point in my lifetime. Part of it is the amount of available time, and we're seeing those student athletes and kind of where their hearts are and where their passions are come out because of now the platforms that they have available to them across social media. But as a leader, how has the social justice movement and the pursuit of racial equality been part of your growth as a leader, as you now sit in the seat that you sit in?
I'll be honest, the social justice and racial equality and racism in our country, that was one of the defining areas, topics that pushed me towards the decision to accept the position at Franklin and Marshall. We are a very active and a very engaged campus, including our student athletes. And I knew that it was going to be time for a change when I applied for the F&M position. And I knew that everything that was happening in our country, in our world, there was a point where I just paused. I had a moment of self-reflection. I was deeply introspective, and I thought, I need to go to a place where I can make a difference. I feel as though I'm having an impact, and I'm with a community that wants to move us forward. And so that was the social justice and racial equity conversations as part of my interview process. There's a real commitment here. We just hired our first vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're working with consulting firms across campus in multiple areas, and including the athletics department on how to increase our DEI efforts, how to sustain them, how to make them part of our culture and make it not just performative. So for me, sport imitates society, and this is an opportunity for us to use this as a betterment and to drive us forward. So I see all of this right now as kind of a line in the sand moment, and I recognize we're not going back to anywhere near where we were pre-COVID. And so this is an opportunity to take sport, inspire others, meaningful service, a life full of purpose, and what a better way to do it than with some transformative justice and being able to help strengthen our communities and our country at a time when we really need it the most.
I wonder if you might give us kind of a sneak peek into the conversation with the student athlete that loves their institution, that loves their country, and yet understands the platform that they have available to them and wants to use that for what is driving their passion, right? They want to be able to speak out. They want to be able to show support for whether it's for other athletes of color or just people of color in general. What does that conversation look like at F&M in terms of giving them, the freedom, if you will, to wear that uniform and still be an individual?
Yeah. We focus a lot on what we call diplomatic discourse. So a play on our diplomat moniker, but we utilize the social change model of leadership at Franklin and Marshall. And so the focus is on controversy with civility. So we educate our students and our student athletes on what does dialogue look like that has both controversy present, but can also be facilitated with civility? And how do we advance the conversation so that it is for growth rather than for a debate, win or loss experience? And so that's what we focus on with our student athletes. We always try to present that growth requires both individuals to be part of the controversy with civility, and then also too that social change model. It's about how do we as a community set the standards? We decide what is acceptable as a unit, and then how do we hold ourselves accountable to those standards? And how do we advance the community forward so that the community is in a better place than we started?
If ever the country needed a master class that we could all take together, it is on that topic. I feel like some of that diplomatic discourse and discourse with civility has been lost, and I'm not going to go too much further into that, but I'm sure you might have noticed the same thing.
So it is, and it's been wonderful to see the student athletes grow. They're so engaged. We have an F&M Votes initiative through our Student Athlete Leadership Council. They are trying to get 100% of eligible student athletes registered to vote. They are working with the larger campus organization in Lancaster City to understand where to vote, how to vote. Many of our students are asking, well, does my vote matter more in Pennsylvania? Should I switch my residence to Pennsylvania and vote? And so it's been really inspiring, but at the same time, it's another added layer of exhaustion that we are experiencing, because not
Right.
only are we doing this in our personal lives, trying to process everything that's happening, now we're also trying to make sure that we're doing it from our educator role and providing our students with the tools to be able to give them a foundation for that controversy with civility.
Absolutely. Well, look, the service you have provided to the institutions that you have served have been tremendous. But throughout your career, you've also had a commitment to the governing organizations that are involved within your profession. The NCAA, Collegiate Water Polo. I know you mentioned that you served on the NCAA Division II Wrestling Committee. You served on the Collegiate Water Polo Association, that governing council. You mentioned your experience as a media coordinator at National Championship Basketball, at NCAA Final Fours, and the Women's Division II National Championship. Talk about the service to the profession that you've also provided and why that's important to you.
Yeah. Most individuals, they'll apply for these service commitments as, maybe you're in the state system and you need tenure, you need a promotion, so you need to show your outside service. And so I didn't have any of that. I wasn't in the state system. So mine was simply because I was interested. What happens at the NCAA? What happens at these championships? And my service on the Division II Wrestling National Committee actually turned out to be one of the most fulfilling experiences I've had as an administrator. When I came on the committee, they had just realigned the regions, and some of the regions lost qualifiers to the national championship, while others gained. And so it was an incredibly unfair process. And through my 4 years on the committee, we were able to revert back to an equitable access ratio to the national championships for all the regions. But we were also able to successfully lobby for a budget increase, and we added 20 wrestlers to the national championship field. So to be able to say that I had a part in expanding the field for 20 extra wrestlers to experience a national championship, it was really fulfilling. And it's something that I would not have had the opportunity to do if I wouldn't have stepped outside of my comfort zone and volunteered service to the NCAA.
That's another topic that we could dive into. My brother was a Division III student athlete. He was a wrestler at Gettysburg College. He was a 4-time Centennial place winner, and yet only 1-time national qualifier because of how the access to nationals was divided at that point. Had he done that at any conference on the Division I level, he would have been an automatic qualifier. And so, yeah, we learned a lot about that process following his athletic career there at Gettysburg. This is the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. I'm Paul Clifford. I'm joined by the athletic director at Franklin and Marshall, Lauren Packer. Lauren, you mentioned earlier in the interview that you were a Renaissance scholar. Talk a little bit about what that means to you. I mentioned in the open that the Penn State Alumni Association has been named the 2020 Renaissance honoree this year, something that we are so honored by and so grateful to be named because of the opportunity that gives us to have an impact on students like you. Talk about what that scholarship meant to you when you were at Penn State.
Yeah. So quite possibly that scholarship is the reason I was able to be retained and come to Penn State year after year. As a first-generation college student, that Renaissance scholarship was vital to my ability to attend Penn State. And what it has afforded me in my lifetime through the diploma is it's just priceless. And so I'm forever grateful to Dr. Rohrbeck and his wife, Annette, for what that it was able to provide, the connections it was able to give me and to kind of grow my career along the way. And so, obviously, thank you and congratulations to the Penn State Alumni Association, because to be named a Renaissance Fund honoree, that is no small accomplishment. That the names and the individuals who have been honored prior, that is a commitment that individuals like me, you have no idea the transformative power that you have placed to these scholarship recipients. And so to anyone who has contributed to the Renaissance Fund or the Penn State Alumni Association, I am proof that those gifts do make an impact.
And my hope is that 15 to 20 years from now, I'm still hosting a coffee hour and I get to interview some of those scholarship recipients of the Penn State Alumni Association's Renaissance Scholarship. It is just another way that the Penn Staters rally around those of us who are in our community that are of greatest need, but also the highest performing. And it's just another example of the power of the Penn State network.
Yeah, and I'll share really quickly with you. Yeah. My family and I used to go to Bandorama every year. Yeah. And there's a point where they play the Big Ten fight song medley, and they invite all of the graduates to stand up when the blue band plays your specific Big Ten alma mater. And so for the first 3 years of my collegiate career, I got to watch all of these Penn Staters stand up. And then when I finally graduated, it was just surreal experience to be one of those individuals in Eisenhower Auditorium that was able to stand up and clap along with the Penn State alumni as part of the fight song.
As the CEO of the Alumni Association, that's one of my favorite traditions at Bandorama. It's also, I know the Glee Club also has that part of their tradition. So I've seen them perform at president's events and things like that. And I've always had to sit, right? Because I wasn't a Penn State graduate, and now I'm a 2020 Penn State graduate, and the pandemic has canceled Bandorama, and it canceled all these other things where I couldn't wait to stand up. And so someday I'm going to get that chance to stand up as a proud Penn State alumnus.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, when you do, make sure that you film it for all of us to see so we can enjoy your experience.
Absolutely. So let's have some fun. We have what we call the lightning round here, and I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick hitter questions. Your favorite Penn State memory?
Oh, goodness. Singing the alma mater for graduation at Penn State Barron.
How about your favorite class at Penn State?
America in the 60s, left, right, and center with Dr. Archie Loss.
Wow. How about your favorite spot on campus? And you can pick at any campus across the Commonwealth.
So favorite spot on campus. That's a tough one. There's so many. How do people pick this?
I think they pick it and then they instantly regret it. And then they'll email me afterwards and say that they love everything else on campus. So,
I mean,
no wrong
that's
answer
really
here.
Tough.
Yeah.
I guess, you know what? I'm going to go with Arboretum. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old nephew now. And the Childhood's Gate has become one of our favorite places to just come and soak in all things Penn State.
So if you could have dinner with anyone, who would it be and why? Obviously, besides your amazing family.
Yes, obviously. With anyone, I have always said I want to have dinner with either Serena Williams or Billie Jean King.
Okay, excellent. You've traveled the country and traveled the world with the work that you've done. What is your most unusual "we are" moment? You're somewhere and you hear somebody yell "we are" and it takes you a little bit by surprise. What is your most unusual "we are" moment?
So, oh gosh, what year was it? 2003 Capital One Bowl. There was someone from my hometown. I had basically considered her and her husband my kind of pseudo grandparents. I had no idea that they were also attending the Capital One Bowl, and we ended up parking in the same parking lot, and we saw each other before the game. We arrived at the same time, walked in the same path, and again, neither one of us had any idea that we were attending the bowl game together.
That's amazing. Your favorite Penn State sport?
Favorite Penn State sport? Penn State football.
Right. Absolutely. And how about your favorite flavor of creamery ice cream?
Oh, so my husband calls me a complete homer on this. We have now tried ice cream everywhere here in Lancaster, direct, fresh from the farm, from the cows, 50 yards away. And to
Right.
this day, there's no ice cream flavor that is better than the creamery butter pecan ice cream.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Lauren, look, your accomplishments have certainly swelled thy fame of Penn State. And for that, we're truly grateful. Thank you for allowing us to share your story this morning on Coffee Hour.
Great. Thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Penn State Alumni Association for your work connecting all of us together virtually during this incredibly tough time. It's just wonderful to be in fellowship with all of our fellow Penn State alums.
And I want to thank you, those who have joined us here on Zoom and on Facebook Live. Thank you again for your support of the Penn State Alumni Association. I know many of you are members of the Alumni Association, and we are truly grateful for your support. If you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Go online at alumni.psu.edu, and you too can become a member of the world's largest alumni association. I hope that you'll join us tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, as always, on Thursday evening, where we will have our next edition of Football Letter Live with John Black. We will be featuring former Nittany Lions and Mike Men, and they will take you behind the scenes of those unique experiences in Beaver Stadium. Thanks for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State.